What's up guys, and welcome to a new video. So today we're going to cover my season starter WhirlWind Barbarian. It doesn't use any uber uniques. Currently I also don't have any masterworking done yet, and I've already killed a couple of tormented bosses and pushed the pit to tier 61 without any issues. And keep in mind, with better gear, masterworking, and uber uniques, this build is going to be doing a ton more damage. This is just where I'm at as of day 2 in season 5. We will cover everything from the skills used to the Paragon board. Timestamps will be down below, so feel free to jump ahead at any time. And there will be a full Lord Zir kill at the end of the video if you want to go ahead and check that out. Anyways, let's get right into it. Starting off with the skills used, up top we have WhirlWind. Obviously this is our main damage dealer. When you guys use WhirlWind, don't forget to tap it. Don't hold the button down. When you tap it is when you're going to produce more tornadoes or dust devils, so make sure that you're tapping WhirlWind at all times to get the maximum damage out of it. Right here we take Challenging Shout. Basically this is going to give us bonus maximum life, Fury whenever we take damage, it taunts nearby enemies, damage reduction. Iron Skin, we get damage reduction from this as well. We get a lot of good perks from this, from an aspect that we have, which we'll go over in the gear and aspects section. You know, it gives us a barrier and it heals us, really good to have. Right here we're going to take Rallying Cry. Basically Rallying Cry is going to give us movement speed, resource generation, and grants us Unstoppable as well. War Cry, basically this gives us Berserking, but we always have Berserking because of a new aspect that we'll go over in the gear and aspects. But this also boosts our damage while we have Berserking, while this is up. And then we can also get even more damage if there's 6 enemies near us when we use it. And then down here we're going to take Call of the Ancients. Now, we no longer take Wrath of the Berserker, it's pretty much garbage. As you can see right there, while Call of the Ancients is active, gain 20% bonus attack speed and a 25% multiplicative increase to your damage, which is awesome. And then the Ancients themselves do a lot of damage. They give us Fury back. I mean, they're just really good overall. So that's the ultimate skill that we're going to be using now. As for the expertise that we're going to use, we're going to go ahead and go with the Two-Handed Axe expertise. As you can see right there, we get a 10% multiplier against vulnerable enemies, which we're making enemies vulnerable at all times, so that's a nice damage boost. As for the gear and aspects, really quickly I'll show you my stats. As you can see right there, I have, you know, over maximum with the resistances, 72.5 because of the pants, which we'll get into here shortly. We have a, you know, decent amount of strength. You want to make sure to hit the 9200. You can see right there, that's all that we need. Total is 9,230, so make sure that you're at least hitting that. And then you know, right now we're at 32k life. You know, we'll definitely be a lot higher than that once we upgrade our gear and we do masterworking and everything else. And then on top of that, you know, my gems aren't even good. I have like 1 perfect ruby up top, and then, you know, the rest are just regular. But yeah, for day 2, not too bad. Real quick with the gems, guys, make sure to get rubies over here for life, and then down in your weapons, you're going to want to get the vulnerable damage. You don't want to go with the critical strike damage. You want to go with the vulnerable damage, because right now, currently, we have about 50%, maybe a little bit over base crit chance. And obviously that'll be higher when we, you know, upgrade more. But for right now, more consistently, we're going to get better damage out of the vulnerable damage. So get the vulnerable damage in all of your weapons. And then over here, guys, in your jewelry, you're just going to go ahead and cap off your resistances. All right, up top, the helmet right here. Now, really quickly, we do use the anger management aspect right here. You can see right there, while above 43 Fury, you are Berserk, but lose 2 Fury per second. Now, you know, 2 Fury per second isn't that much, but I definitely, on at least 1, maybe 2 pieces of gear, I have it on my boots and up on my helmet, I get Fury per second. So I would say to definitely at least get that in 1 spot. You know, 2 makes it a little bit more comfy, so I would definitely get that. Up in the helmet though, strength, try to get the Fury per second. Now, you don't have to get the lightning resistance right there. You can get the resistance somewhere else, and then right there, you could put like life or, you know, something else if you wanted to. The aspect that we want up in the helmet is going to be the Iron Warrior aspect, and you can see right there with Iron Skin, basically it gives us Unstoppable and 28% more damage reduction while Iron Skin is up. Into the body armor right here, so we're going to want to go with strength, maximum life, and then armor, so that we hit that armor cap. And then I have barrier generation. You can get crowd control duration right there also if you don't want the barrier generation, but I like having the barrier generation over the crowd control duration because, you know, it helps my survivability out. Then we also tempered the maximum life, and then for the aspect right here, guys, you want to get the fortress aspect. For every 10% of life you are missing, gain you know, up to 5% damage reduction, which is, you know, nice for survivability. Into the gloves, definitely want to have the anger management aspect on the gloves. I love this aspect. I used it in the PTR. You know, having Berserk up at all times is just awesome. More damage, movement speed, you know, it's just great. And we get a lot of good stuff from, you know, berserking in our skill tree as well. So you definitely want to have the anger management right there on your gloves. Go with strength, crit chance, really important. Vulnerable damage, or you can get the critical strike damage right there in place of the vulnerable damage. It's kind of up to you. When it comes to masterworking, you're going to want to masterwork up the critical strike chance. And then right there for the temperings, you see I have the crowd control duration. Now, I would have rather had the barrier generation, but that's just what I ended up with. And then go ahead and go with the vulnerable damage or the critical strike damage as your other temper. Right here into the pants. Now, this is the only unique that I have on the build. I got this, and actually, you know, it looks like they've done some reworks to these pants, because before they were complete garbage, and now they have movement speed, all stats, you know, maximum resistances, resistance to all elements, almost 30% right there I got, you know, 28%. And, you know, basically, in my eyes, this is kind of like a poor man's Tyrael's Might, you know, which obviously, you know, Tyrael's Might I'm going to get for the build when I get all my Uber uniques. But for right now, until I get Tyrael's, I'm going to use the Tacits of the Dawning Sky. You know, with the changes, they're pretty good. And then you can see right there when you take damage from a non-physical damage type, you gain, you know, up to 15% maximum resistance to that damage type. So that can definitely help you out and helps a lot with the survivability. So I would definitely say those. If you don't have those, you know, you can't find them or whatever, just get yourself a pair of pants like this, get strength, life. You know, you can get total armor on there, or I'm sorry, you can get the armor roll on there. And then I would say go with the wild bolt aspect on there. Basically, it pulls enemies in every few seconds around you and gives you a 10% multiplier against those enemies. Into the boots right here, guys. I have, once again, Fury per second. You know, you could go without it right there if you had a good roll on your helmet of the Fury per second. And then in place of that, you could either put strength or maximum life. And then, you know, you're going to have to get another total armor right there, especially before masterworking and everything. Later on, we might be able to drop the total armor, which I obviously probably will. But for now, with no masterworking done, you know, we got to have 2 rolls of the total armor to hit that cap. Definitely get the movement speed, barrier generation for your tempering, movement speed for your tempering, and then right there we want to get the Ghost Walker aspect. While unstoppable and for 4 seconds after, you gain 24% up to 25% increased movement speed, and you can basically go through enemies and you're unhindered, which is awesome. You want to have good movement speed. I mean, this is kind of like a speed farming build, so you definitely want to have that. All right, down into the weapon. You can see right here for our two-handed mace, we want to go with strength, maximum life, and then you want to get the fury on kill. We want to be producing as much fury as we possibly can, and the main reason that we want to do that obviously is to keep our fury up. But also right here you can see after generating 100 fury, your next direct damage creates 2 dust devils. So I mean, it's just the more fury generation we have overall, however we're getting it, is creating more dust devils, and that dust devils are our main damage dealer. Whirlwind is just making the dust devils. Dust devils are what, you know, produce the main damage for our build. So we want to have as many dust devils going off at all times as possible. Now for the tempering on here, really important on all the weapons with your tempering, you want to get on your two-handed mace right here, chance for dust devils to cast twice. Really important. Try to get as high a roll as you possibly can, and then go for the critical strike damage right there for your other tempering. And then on your two-handed mace right here, you want to, the most important aspect we have is the dust devil aspect. Whirlwind leaves behind dust devils that deal, you know, 10k damage to enemies in their path. That's our main way of producing dust devils, and dust devils are our main damage dealers. So definitely want to have that aspect on your two-hander. Right here into our first one-handed weapon, you want to go with strength, maximum life, critical strike damage, or vulnerable damage. You could do either or. Preferably, I don't want an axe. I'm going to end up getting a sword right there, because you see with the sword, you have the implicit of 17.5% critical strike damage. With the axe right here, you get 20% damage over time. That doesn't do anything for us. That's dead to us. So basically, you want to have 2 swords. I will end up changing that, obviously. Right here, also go with strength, maximum life, crit damage. And then you want to also, once again, for your tempering on both of these for now, you want to get chance for dust devils to cast twice. And then you want to go with crit strike damage down below that. And then you want to go with the conceited aspect on your first one right here. Now, the reason that we want chance for dust devils to cast twice is obviously, you know, every time they're casting, that's almost twice as much damage if we can get that number as close to 100% as possible. So you definitely want to have that on both of these. Now, after masterworking and with some changes, you know, we might be able to drop it on one of these and go with more size, like we'll have right over here that I'll show you in just a minute. But yeah, you want to definitely get the chance for Dust Devils to cast twice on both right here. Same for this one. I mean, they're going to be identical. Strength, maximum life, crit chance. Dust Devils to cast twice. Crit damage again. And then also on the second sword right here, you want to have the Fierce Winds aspect. Your shout skills create 3 Dust Devils that deal, you know, almost 3.5k damage to enemies along their path. So that's another way that we're making even more Dust Devils. And then also you see right there, your Dust Devils are 18% bigger and deal 1% increased damage for each 1% their size is increased. So the more size that we have, obviously, you know, the more area our Dust Devils are hitting, and also they're doing more damage for the size because of this aspect, which is awesome. Which leads us into our two-handed sword. You can see right there for the tempering on top, we have Dust Devil size. We have the max roll of 60%. With master working, we could get that up to like, you know, 100% or close to it. You know, that's going to give us a lot of damage and size with our Dust Devils. You want to get crit strike damage for your other tempering. Same over here, strength, maximum life, critical strike damage. You definitely want to go with the two-handed sword also for the 35% critical strike damage implicit. And then the devilish aspect right there. Up into our amulet right here, you can see I have strength, maximum life, and critical strike chance. I was just worried about getting the base crit chance. You definitely want to get that anywhere that you can and try to master work that up. You want to get Warcry cooldown right there, and then damage while berserking. Now with our damage while berserking that we have in the Paragon board, and then we get damage with the berserking on all 3 pieces of our jewelry, that'll bring us up high enough to get the maximum out of our Paragon board node that you'll see here in a minute, to get the 30% multiplier. So you definitely want to have the damage while berserking, really important on all 3 of these. Right here, now I have strength, maximum life, critical strike chance. Now as you can see right here, I actually got really lucky and I found this amulet, which is really good for the build, and I could masterwork this up, get 3 to each of those, counter-offensive and heavy-handed. Those are both multipliers for the build that you'll see. I'll show you really quickly. Right here, counter-offensive, if we got 3 points out of that, that'd be a 12% multiplier. And then right here, heavy-handed, if we get 3 points at least from that, that's another 15% multiplier. So that's, you know, pretty huge as far as, you know, amulet right here. This is a nice amulet. So you want to try to look for those, counter-offensive or heavy-handed, you know, obviously greater affix. If you could find it, that would be nice. And then in place of the maximum life up there, I would say go with, you know, crit strike chance. We want to get our crit strike chance up as high as possible. Our critical strikes are what does the most of the damage in our build, so we definitely want to have that. But yeah, if you can get an amulet like this with counter-offensive and heavy-handed, that'd be awesome. If not, you know, try to get heavy-handed, base crit, and then you can go with like life, strength, you know, whatever else you want. Movement speed if you wanted to, cooldown reduction. And then for the aspect up here, we're going to go ahead and go with the aspect of elements. This is going to give us a ton of damage. You know, it's half on, half off, 7 seconds at a time. We're basically going to get, you know, our damage from the physical when it's boosted up, and you can get up to a 41, and you can get up to a 45% multiplier to your physical damage, which is a nice boost overall to our damage. So you definitely want to have the aspect of elements up there. Right here into our first ring, we want to go with the Bold Chieftains aspect. Basically, going to be bringing our cooldown down on our shouts when we use them around enemies, which is awesome. You want to go with strength, maximum life, critical strike chance. You could get attack speed. Whirlwind does scale with attack speed now in season 5, but we just tapped the whirlwind, so I don't think attack speed's really going to help us that much unless we're just holding it down. I mean, you could go with attack speed, but I wouldn't really worry about it too much. So yeah, strength, maximum life, base crit chance, and then right there for the temperings, you want to go with either Warcry cooldown or Brawling cooldown. Now, Warcry is a brawling skill, but you can get more cooldown reduction out of the actual Warcry temper. That's just the one that I got, so I kept it. And I actually got that down here on the other ring as well. But yeah, try to go with the Warcry temper and the damage while berserking on both. And then on the second ring, you're going to go with the slacking aspect. You have up to a 49% chance to gain 20 fury when a core skill deals direct damage to at least one bleeding enemy. As you'll see in the skill tree, we're making enemies bleed around us. So this is, you know, keeping our fury topped off. And then right here, guys, we're going to go with the strength, base crit chance. Now on this one, you want to try to get the unlucky hit up to a 21% chance to make enemies vulnerable. Now, because of a glyph in the Paragon board, we make enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds when we first hit them, but that is only once every 20 seconds. So like on bosses and stuff, we lose the vulnerable, and we don't want to be losing the vulnerable. That gives us a, you know, huge damage boost having an enemy vulnerable. So we want to have this lucky hit right here, at least in one spot. I'd say get it on your ring, like right here. And then we also have vulnerable on hit in the skill tree that you'll see here in just a minute. Alright guys, we will briefly go over the skill tree up top. You know, wherever you want to put the points, just got to put 2 points for the basic so we can get down here. We don't use any basic skills. 1 into Whirlwind and 1 back into Enhanced Whirlwind. Gain 1 Fury each time Whirlwind deals direct damage, or 4 against elite enemies. Now, we only have 1 point to Whirlwind. Whirlwind does not actually do, I mean, it does a tiny little bit of damage, but it's not our damage dealer. It is the Dust Devils that are created by Whirlwind that are doing the main damage with this build. So, you know, if you're wondering why we only put 1 point, that's why. And that's why you don't want to get like ranks to Whirlwind on your gloves or anything. It doesn't do anything for us. So right here, we're going to go ahead and put 2 points into Pressure Point. Now this is our other way. On Lucky Hit, your core and weapon mastery skills have up to a 20% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. This, along with our ring, is how we're going to keep bosses and tougher enemies vulnerable after the 3 seconds. Down into our defensive skills, right here we're going to go 3 into Imposing Presence for 15% maximum life. Multiplicative, 1 into Martial Vigor for a little bit of damage reduction. We're going to take Rallying Cry, run it back to Tactical. Iron Skin, run that back to Tactical as well. 1 into Outburst and 1 into Tough as Nails. Basically, Outburst is going to give us thorns, and any enemy that hits us and is affected by our thorns will be bleeding. So that's how we make enemies bleed. Right here, Challenging Shout, run that back to Tactical. Down here for the brawling skills, we're going to go 1 into Warcry, run that back to Power Warcry for the you know, damage multiplier when there's enough enemies around. Booming Voice, basically giving duration to our shouts. 2 into Raid Leader for some heal from our shouts. Right here, we want to go ahead and go with Swiftness. You know, 3 points into that for sure. We want movement speed with this build. This is going to be like, you know, pretty much a farming build. We want to be getting around as quickly as possible. 3 into Aggressive Resistance, 12% damage reduction. We're always berserking, so that's always up. 3 into Prolific Fury. We're always berserking, so more Fury generation. Down into our Weapon Mastery. 3 into Pit Fighter, for damage to close and distant damage reduction. 3 into Slaying Strike. You deal 23% multiplicative increased damage against injured enemies. Injured is less than 35% of their life. Now, against regular enemies, regular mobs, that's not really a big deal, but against like bosses with a lot of HP, you'll definitely notice that. Down here, we want to go into Thick Skin, put 1 point there so that we can get down into counteroffensive. You know, our Fortify is always over halfway, so we're going to get a nice 12% multiplier right there. Down into our ultimate skill, like we talked about earlier, Call of the Ancients, run it back to Supreme. Right here, we're going to take 3 into Heavy-Handed for a 15% multiplier with our critical strikes. Right here, wall up your skills using bludgeoning weapons, deal 15% increased damage if the enemy is stunned or vulnerable. And we use our two-handed mace for Whirlwind, so we want to take that for a nice multiplier. Down into our key passive, we're going to go with Unconstrained on this one. Increase Berserking's maximum duration by 5 seconds. Who cares about that? But the damage bonus is increased to 60% instead of just 25, so we get a nice little 35% multiplier right there. Alright guys, we will go ahead and jump into the Paragon board really quickly. Now don't forget to level up your glyphs, you know, get them to at least 15 for the bigger radius. Definitely want to get them to 21. It's easy to level your glyphs now, especially in Season 5, so might as well level them all the way up and get as much power as you possibly can. We're going to start off right down here. We're going to come up and get Brawn, physical damage, and maximum life. Up in the first board right here, we're going to put Exploit. Basically, when an enemy is damaged by you, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. This is how we initially, you know, apply vulnerable to enemies. And then it does give us a little bit of vulnerable damage. We just put enough points to get the additional bonus though. Down here, we're going to take Tenacity for maximum life and armor. We're going to get Raw Power for physical damage and strength up here. The next board that we're going to come into will be the Warbringer board. This is what's going to make it to where our Fortify is up pretty much at all times. We want to come over here and throw Twister in right here. We definitely want to get the strength and radius. You can see right there for the additional bonus, 13% multiplier for 4 seconds after creating a Dust Devil. Nice little multiplier. We're going to go down here for Conditioned. We're going to come over here for Hungering Fury, 16 to maximum Fury, 2 Fury on kill. We're going to take Fire Resilience over here, maximum life and fire resistance. Obviously, we're going to get Warbringer. The next board that we will come into is going to be the Carnage board. While berserking, critical strikes increase your attack speed by 2%, up to 16%. And Whirlwind is affected by attack speed now, so, you know, we'll go ahead and take this. In this board, guys, we're going to throw Might right here. get the additional bonus out of this so that we get an 8% multiplier since we're wielding a two-handed weapon. Down here, we're going to go with Enraged for damage while berserking. Don't worry about the berserking duration. We don't need that with our anger management. We're going to go ahead and take Brash for, close damage reduction. Fierce for damage while berserking. Over here, we're going to get Berserk for damage while berserking and elite damage. The next board that we're going to come into will be the Bone Break board. The only reason we're coming into here is for the Wrath glyph. And we just want to get the additional bonus. Skills that critically strike generate 3 Fury. Another way that we're generating Fury, and it gives us a bit of critical strike damage. Next board will be right up here, the Weapon Master board. We're going to go ahead and throw in Blood Feeder right here. You can see right there for the additional bonus, you have 10% increased critical strike chance against bleeding enemies. Now, they have actually changed that with Season 5. Before, it was a 5% chance. I mean, that's 10% base crit. And, our main damage is coming from critical strikes with this build. So, to me, that's a huge glyph for this build, especially with the no uber unique version. And we have not masterworked anything. So, that 10% base crit is really nice to have. Definitely want to have that right there. And we deal 35.6% damage, increased damage to bleeding enemies. Right here, we're going to go ahead and take Raw Power. Next board we're going to come into will be the Blood Rage board. Obviously, this is why we stack the damage while berserking. You can see right there your damage is increased by 10% multiplicative of your damage while berserking bonus up to a maximum of 30%. I'm at 29. I need just a little bit more to hit that 30 cap. In this board, we're going to go ahead and throw Martial. You can see right there with the additional bonus. After casting a shout skill, the active cooldown of every other non-shout skill is reduced by 2 seconds, bringing our cooldowns down. And then we get Revel right here and Grit. And then the final board that we're going to come into is going to be the Decimator board for a nice 10% multiplier when we make an enemy vulnerable. In this board, guys, we're going to throw Ire. You want to get the additional bonus right there while berserking. You take 10% reduced damage from elites, which is nice. And then we also get a nice little amount of damage while berserking. Over here we take Arrogance. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for the Paragon board. There will be a link to this in the description over on Mobalytics if you want to check it out that way. Hopefully this guide has been helpful. Hopefully this video has been helpful. I will be updating this build. There will be another guide coming in the near future with Uber Uniques and, juiced up to the max. So be on the lookout for that. There will be Lord Zir gameplay if you want to go ahead and check that out right now. This video has been helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys.